World reactions vary when it comes to the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant issued yesterday, and the Russian-Ukrainian conflict enters a new phase. Join our special coverage on Qnews Minute After Minute update, where we track the significant consequences of the ICC warrant and examine the rising tensions in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict following Russia's launch of new Oshnik missile. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell has reaffirmed that the European government, including those aspiring to join the bloc, cannot pick and choose whether to execute arrest warrants issued by an international tribunal against Israeli leaders. He pointed out that such obligations are not optional for the EU members, and any refusal would constitute a violation of legal commitments. Borrell also rejected accusations that the ICC's arrest warrants were anti-Semitic, asserting that criticism of Israeli government policies should not be equated with anti-Semitism.
The candidates to become member of the European Union, among the conditions they have to fulfill is to be member of the International Court. So it would be very...
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has praised the courageous decision of the International Criminal Court to seek the arrest of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Erdogan said that Turkey supports the arrest warrant, saying that the decision should be carried out by all country members of the accord to renew the trust of humanity in the international system. United Nations spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric has revealed that Israeli forces blocked two-thirds of 129 humanitarian aid operations from reaching Gaza last week. Speaking at a daily press briefing, Dujarric emphasized the urgent need for proper shelter in Gaza as winter approaches, with residents facing rain and cold. He added that the UN and its partners are working to swiftly deliver tents to the region.
With bombs. He urges states and parties to conflict to protect humanitarian workers, to uphold international law, to prosecute those responsible, and call on this.
Two Palestinians have been killed and others injured in an Israeli airstrike that targeted Kemal Adwan Hospital in the town of Beit Lahia, north of the Gaza Strip. Palestinian media reported that the occupation forces targeted a gathering of citizens at the northern gate of the hospital, which has been subjected to continuous bombing since last night, which has led to the injury of nearly 12 medical personnel in the Israeli attacks since then. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, accusing them of war crimes and crimes against humanity during the Gaza war.
The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, accusing them of crimes against humanity and war crimes committed during the war on Gaza. The charges include the use of starvation as a weapon of war, deliberate attacks on civilians, and violations of international humanitarian law. The United Kingdom, a signatory to the Rome Statute, has indicated its readiness to comply with its legal obligations under international law. A spokesperson for Prime Minister Keir Starmer confirmed the United Kingdom's adherence to responsibilities, though they refrained from commenting on whether Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu would face arrest. Similarly, Canada has affirmed its compliance, with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emphasizing the importance of upholding international law. Hungary, in stark contrast, has dismissed the ICC's jurisdiction and invited Netanyahu for an official visit. The United States has also rejected the warrants, with President Joe Biden denouncing the ICC's decision as outrageous and reiterating Washington's steadfast support for Israel. Other nations, including Ireland, Belgium, and the Netherlands, have expressed their intent to enforce the ICC rulings, potentially complicating Netanyahu's international travel.
Mr. Khan takes his place among the great anti-Semites in modern times.
The ICC decision extends beyond political leaders, targeting Israeli military personnel involved in the war on Gaza. International activists have gathered detailed evidence on individuals implicated in the crimes. Recent legal actions in countries like Belgium and Cyprus demonstrate how this information is being leveraged to uphold perpetrators accountable. The warrants have heightened scrutiny of Netanyahu's leadership, sparking concerns about his ability to govern amid increasing international isolation. Legal experts suggest that the ICC's decision may influence other legal actions, such as arms embargoes, and could mark a significant shift in global accountability for war crimes.
Well, welcome back, and for an in-depth analysis of the situation in Gaza, we're joined from Paris by international law professor Majid Boudin. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews.
Good evening.
Now, how likely is it that countries, of course, those who are signatories of the Rome Statute, would enforce the International Criminal Court's decision against Netanyahu and Gallant?
I mean, this is the fact to be part of a convention conducts this country to be liable to enforce all decisions of the court. So any country which is not only signatory but which has ratified this convention has to comply with this obligation to enforce the decision. So we have seen that countries like UK, Ireland, Belgium, France, Italy, and a lot of countries, they have confirmed that they will comply with this obligation and they will enforce it. So if Netanyahu and Gallant will come to their territories or will fly over the country, they can arrest them and remit them to the international court, the International Criminal Court.
Are we having here a kind of historical incidents or precedents that where nations have obstructed the ICC ruling, and what were the consequences?
Well, we have seen that Mongolia, for instance, they did not enforce the arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin, and they were put under very heavy pressure because Mongolia is between Russia and China, and they are obliged to not comply with it despite their obligations. So they are breaching their obligations, and this means that their signature is not reliable. This is the matter. The country will lose credibility in the international arena, because when they sign an obligation, they have to, when they have signed a convention, they have to oblige to comply with the obligation. But it happens that we can see in South Africa, for instance, they want Vladimir Putin to arrest him, and Brazil did the same. And they have an internal system which can force the government, internal judicial system which can force the government to comply. And the civil society in South Africa, they have warned the president of South Africa that if he will not comply, they will go to the local courts, and they will issue by these courts orders to oblige the government to comply. So this is why Ramaphosa has warned Vladimir Putin that he will be under the obligation to comply. It's the same thing in Brazil, and it's very clear that in EU countries, the governments will not be able to not comply. We have seen now Orban of Hungary, who said that he will not comply, but everybody knows what is going on in Hungary, so this is an exception.
Mm-hmm. From your point of view, or speaking about the law enforcement, now, from your point of view, how can the international law be enforced or leveraged to be enforced and to enforce the ICC decisions among member states, particularly when a state refuses to comply with this arrest warrant?
Well, first of all, the state who is part of the Rome Convention, of the ICC Convention, must comply. And generally they comply. We have these two exceptions, Mongolia and Hungary. So it's an exception. But the major thing, the most important thing, is that most countries, they have committed themselves to comply with it. So this is the most important thing. Now, in fact, in practical terms, Vladimir Putin cannot oppose the immunity, and this is very important. A chief of state of a government has an international immunity when he travels or for his acts. Here we see that, and this is a turning point. It's a major turning point, that the immunity will not play, and Netanyahu and Gallant will not be protected by immunity. So these decisions mean that the immunity is now cancelled, and this is important. And consequently, in his travels, he is of course advised to be very careful. He will not travel as before. So this is something which is impeaching him, or is preventing him from traveling as freely as before. So this has an effect. This effect is a major effect.
Thank you so much, Dr. Majid Boudin, for sharing your valuable definitely insights and analysis here. And now we move to the latest developments in Russia and Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced that his country would continue testing the hypersonic Oshnik missile fired at Ukraine the previous day and begin its serial production. Putin emphasized that the missile could not be intercepted, stating that there are currently no countermeasures or interception systems worldwide. He reiterated the importance of ongoing tests and the establishment of serial production for the new missile system. Russia's claimed that its forces attacked targets including Ukraine's military-industrial enterprises, energy facilities and military airfields over the past week. On the other side, Ukraine reported that its forces repelled Russian attacks and shot down dozens of Russian drones. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the Russian military had taken control of multiple settlements over the past week, noting that the Russian Air Defense Forces intercepted missile, rockets, aerial bombs, and drones launched from the Ukrainian side. The governor of Russia's Kursk region has announced the return of 46 civilian residents, including 12 children held by Ukraine. Alexei Smirnov stated that the civilians had been taken into Ukraine by Ukrainian troops during a cross-border incursion into the Kursk region in August. The release followed negotiations between Moscow and Kiev. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rostom Umerov has announced that his government is enhancing air defense capabilities in response to Russia's ballistic missile attack on the city of Dnipro. Speaking at a joint media briefing with Swedish Defense Minister Pål Jonson in Stockholm, Umerov emphasized Ukraine's commitment to bolstering its defense. Johnson reiterated Sweden's unwavering support for Ukraine despite the latest Russian assault. And for further analysis of the current escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine, we're joined from Kiev by military expert Ivan Us. Welcome to you on Qnews, sir.
Good evening from Kiev. Greetings to you and greetings to audience.
Thank you so much. And how prepared is Ukraine to counter the new Russian missile, both militarily and strategically?
So in Ukraine, we understand that Russia needs to do something in response, because after receiving the green light for using the attack MS, it's American missiles, plus Ukraine received the option to use the French Scalp and British rocket Storm Shadow on the Russian territory in distance approximately 300 kilometers, as some officials said. So we understand that Russia needs to do something in response, just first of all for their local audience, and that's why Russia used a new rocket that, according to Putin, called Oreshnik. So actually, if translate into English, it will be Hazel 3. So my own opinion that this title appeared 10 or 15 minutes before Putin statement, and Russia really have some old rockets, and we are not sure that it's something new, because at first it was made statement that it's intercontinental rocket, then said no, it's intermediate range ballistic missile. So I mean that it's a rocket that exists in 2 or 3 examples.
Definitely, definitely, sir. Yes. You're speaking here about the Russian capabilities, which the abouts of it is not very much well known from your side. But let me here ask you about the capabilities of Ukraine to defend itself from the Russian missiles attacks.
So I want to pay attention that this attack was not on Kiev, where I'm living, but for city of Dnipro that has a lower level of air defense. In Kiev's situation better. It means that in case if the same rockets will attack Kiev, like it was several days before when 120 Russian rockets were sent to Ukraine, every rocket that was sent to Kiev was destroyed. That's why I want to say that with high probability, we could never give 100%, but with high probability, even those Russian rockets could be destroyed. So the question is to find how our system will work, and I'm sure that it could. That's why I can say that now, of course, we understand that Russia demonstrates its options, but it doesn't mean that Ukraine should stop in returning our territory or attack Russia before Russia is not returned to Ukraine, our territory that they captured since 2014, actually.
What are the key capabilities of the new Russian missile, and how do they compare to existing weapons, particularly with the Ukrainian defense minister here announcing that his government is enhancing the air defense capabilities in response to Russia's ballistic missile attack on the Dnipro?
So every time when you see new type of weapon from your opponent, of course you think whether you could destroy the same thing in next attack. So now we, of course, Ukraine ask our partners to increase the quantity of anti-air defense systems. So something that will help to us to destroy the missiles and rockets from Russia. I think that Patriot and other systems could cope with that. Probably some other types of anti-air attack systems could help. So I think that Ukraine can find response to this new threat from Russia, and the same situation was with previous rockets or with Russian drones that, of course, sometimes attack Ukrainian territory, but in majority of cases, Ukraine succeeds to destroy them in the air. Of course, it's created damages when they're destroyed, but it's a horse of another color.
Of course, reports differ from one side to another, since the Ukrainian reports are different than the Russian one. But let me here take your opinion about what could be the potential consequences of, for instance, North Korean troops joining the conflict in Ukraine.
Appearance of North Korea means that two actually nuclear countries in war with Ukraine, because soldiers from Northern Korea, it's really new part of that war. But as for Ukraine, it opened the opportunity for more close cooperation with South Korea and with Japan, countries that have some fear in their relationship with Northern Korea. That's why I think that, of course, on the one hand, Russia received troops important for them, because Russian soldiers, their quantity is not enough. For Russia, they need Northern Korea help. Without them, it's hard to them to be in war. But for Ukraine, it means on the one hand problems, on the other hand option for increased cooperation, and received weapon from Southern Korea. That is one of the main producer of weapons in the world, and that will be big plus for Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Then, from your point of view, Sam, how significant is the new Russian missile in altering the military balance in Ukraine?
I don't think that it's seriously something changed. As I said, that the only result of that rocket, that Russian ruble lost 4% in its value after that sent. If before it, the exchange rate was 100 Russian rubles per USD, now 104 Russian rubles. So it's the only consequences of the situation. As for military way, I think that now Ukraine will think how to cope, as I said, with such kind of weapon. I don't think that it will be a big problem to find a solution and the resolution of this problem. And then the war will last without actually even without serious influence of that of appearance of new type of Russian weapon. Thank you.
That also, as we said, is varies between the Ukrainian reports and the Russian reports about the situation and the developments. That was the military expert Ivan Yus. Thank you so much for being with us and for your insights. And I guess that brings us to the end of our special coverage for today. Remember to stay updated by following Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Q News for the latest developments. Many thanks for watching.